Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 37 of Xiaolin Showdown, Dangerous Minds. And this episode begins, as most episodes do, with the Xiaolin monks and Jack Spicer looking for Shen Gong Wu. In this case, this Shen Gong Wu is something called the Hidoku Mouse, which apparently has the power to basically undo mistakes. To give a small example, let's say that you were walking along the street and then you tripped up and skinned your knee. With Hidoku Mouse, you can undo that mistake and make it so that you never tripped up at all. In every sense of the word, the Hidoku Mouse is a very powerful Shengang Wu, guys. It can literally undo any kind of mistake, which could also potentially include, just little screw ups in your life, things that made your life a little bit worse, just, things that wound up biting you in the ass at some point. As such, everybody, of course, is going for it, and the Hidoku Mouse is located beneath the earth. Of course, it's within a hot magma cavern. Of course, as you do, the Xiaolin monks end up coming to blows with Jack Spicer, who apparently between episodes managed to get more funding for his robots, as he has a legion of giant worm bots there to try and fight the Xiaolin monks. Unfortunately, despite how big they are no match for the Xiaolin monks, as they all literally get tied up with one another and instead just cause a bunch of earthquakes and caverns to start caving in and opening up. And unfortunately, in the midst of all this, the Hidoku Mouse is sadly lost as it falls down to some random cavern. And that's not the only problem that arises, as because of all these earthquakes, these giant spiders suddenly emerge and attack both the Xiaolin monks and Jack Spicer, forcing everybody to retreat. And unfortunately, despite everyone abandoning these caverns, the world literally all starts shaking, mostly because of the spiders. It turns out that these spiders are a very predatory species, neither good nor evil. They are just scavengers, hungry scavengers, and they will literally eat anything they come across, whether it be livestock, animals, buildings, or even the world itself. And unfortunately, those spiders are now awake. They're antsy and they're trying to get to the surface. So if they manage to get out of their caverns, they're going to spread all around the globe and pretty much consume everything. As such, it becomes a priority to try and stop these things, and it's such a high priority that even the bad guys want to stop them. Mostly because, as the Kingpin put it in Spider-Man the Animated Series, there's no profit to be made in the destruction of the world. It's very bad for business. As such, Chase Young and Wuya pretty much kidnap Jack from his house and tell him that because his worm bots were the things that woke the spiders up, that he has to help. And basically both sides now want to get their hands on the Hidoku Mouse, as they believe that with its power, they can undo what Jack did by waking these things up. As such, everyone ends up zeroing in on where the Hidoku Mouse is as they manage to find the cavern, and while both sides end up meeting in the same place, Chase is the one that argues that they need to put their differences aside right now, as because of the greater threat of these spiders, it's probably the better idea to let bygones be bygones and not let petty squabbles like who's good and who's evil get in the way. Unless you're Jack Spicer, in which case he goes, fuck that, he's not going home with nothing, as he rushes at the Hidoku Mouse. And of course, Omi tries to stop him, and both of them end up grabbing the Hidoku Mouse, and so Omi challenges Jack to a Xiaolin showdown, with him wagering the Orb of Tournami, and Jack wagering the Tongue of Sai Ping. And the challenge, well, as Omi put it, mud wrestling. Okay, I admit my mind went to places when I heard that, but basically, Omi and Jack are going to be fighting in the middle of a giant mud pit, and the Hidoku Mouse is going to be located somewhere in that pit. Whoever can get their hands on the Hidoku Mouse first will be considered the winner. And so, Xiaolin showdown time, as the entire cavern metamorphoses and ends up this pit ends up getting filled up with mud. As such, Omi and Jack, of course, rush in to try and find the Hidoku Mouse, and they are able to put up enough of a fight. With the Orb of Tournami on his side, Omi is able to redirect the mud and try and mess with Jack, throw him around. Jack uses the Tongue of Sai Ping to get all the insects and critters in the cavern to try and go after Omi. It leads to this whole big it basically causes the Hidoku Mouse to come sprawling out of the mud, and both warriors to try zeroing in on it. But eventually, Jack manages to come out victorious for once, as he manages to stop Omi, and in the process, he ends up flinging the Hidoku Mouse right onto his lap. And so, He wins the showdown, winning the Orbo Tournami and the Hadoku Mouse. As such, as everything gets back to normal, Jack decides he wants to take a moment to bask in his victory. Of course, everyone tells him, fine, whatever, bask, just use the fucking Shengon Wu to stop these spiders. But Jack, being Jack, he just wants to have this moment last a little while. Unfortunately, that little while lasts a few seconds too long as the spiders end up zeroing in on the cavern they're in, and unfortunately their arrival causes a bunch of tremors and causes the very ground that everyone is standing in to collapse, resulting in opening up a path straight to a bunch of lava, which unfortunately the Hadoku Mouse falls into. So yeah, despite Jack winning the showdown, now nobody gets the Shengon Wu. Thanks a lot, Jack. That was their best bet in beating these things, dumbass. However, because of the cave-in, unfortunately, the group ends up getting separated. Wuya most likely just fucks off to go do her own thing, but as a result, Jack, Kimiko, Clay, and Raimundo end up on one side of this cavern, while Chase and Omi are stuck on the other side. And trying to get out of all this, Omi uses the golden tiger claws to open a rift to allow himself and Chase to escape. In the meantime, everyone piles into Jack's vehicle, that tunneling device, I forgot what it was called, and they manage to get away. They manage to get away, eventually managing to find themselves into this giant cavern where apparently the city of Atlantis is. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. There's a sign and everything. And as such, they decide to kind of stay in Atlantis until they can try and figure out a way to face the spiders. But unfortunately, Atlantis is already infested with these things as the spiders end up zeroing in on them and capture the group. Most likely to eat them later. In the meantime, back with Jack and Omi, or Chase and Omi, sorry, they manage to get to the surface and they realize that with the Hadoku Mouse now pretty much gone, they need to find another way to beat the spiders. And, well, Chase has a way, as he and Omi return back to his hideout, and they have two particular Shengon Wu on standby, the Fountain of Wii and the Eagle Scope. After all, as we learned several episodes ago, the combination of these two Shengon Wu can allow anyone access to any type of knowledge that their heart desires, including how to defeat the spiders. Although before they use the Shengon Wu, Chase makes Omi swear a vow that while they may be using these particular Shengon Wu to stop the spiders, Omi in no way should use either of them to look for the means of destroying evil. And as such, Omi promises not to do that, and so he and Chase use the Shengon Wu in tandem. And what I like is how they showcase it. First, they activate the Fountain of Wii, which of course releases its waters of knowledge. Before Omi and Chase can absorb all that knowledge, they activate the Eagle Scope, and immediately they can start seeing images in the water. And so instead of them both absorbing the knowledge as directly into their heads, they now can sparse through it and actually focus in on stuff. And so Omi and Chase immediately try to focus on how to defeat the spiders, and they finally get their answer. As it turns out, the spiders are weak to lava. If they get exposed to the stuff, they petrify and turn to stone. As such, Omi realizes that they want to stop the spiders, then they gotta get a lava flow going. As such, with this knowledge in mind, Omi and Chase end up returning back down to the caverns and manage to find Atlantis, where they find Dojo, who hasn't been captured, but is now in a panicked state because apparently he's arachnophobic, which I don't blame him. I'm kind of arachnophobic too. But he is able to tell the duo that everybody else has been captured by the spiders. As such, Omi and Chase make their way in, and while they do end up running into a group of spiders, they're able to easily take care of them, and even manage to grab one to interrogate using the tongue of Saiping. I'm guessing they managed to grab it from Jack before everything went down. However, the spider pretty much just tells them that they're fucked either way. That even if they find the queen of this place, they still have a giant pile of eggs on standby that are going to hatch soon, and once they do, the legion of spiders will be more than enough to devour the earth. As such, Omi and Chase do manage to find Jack and the Xiaolin warriors, and they manage to cut them down. And so Omi lets them know that they gotta get a lava flow going through this place. If they can get through, they can stop the spiders and all that. And Omi knows exactly what to do, as he looks to Jack's tunneling device. And basically, what he wants to do is that he's gonna set it on autopilot and send it right into a lava flow. After that, the lava will be directed right into this cavern, cavern and basically petrify all the spiders. As such, while Jack is reluctant to do this because he doesn't want to part with this thing, well, he kind of has no choice. It's either lose this or lose the world. And so they send it off with Jack just shyly waving goodbye. As such, everyone decides they need to get out of this cavern before the lava comes in. But unfortunately, that's when they run into the queen of these things, as her head is actually covering up one of the entrances, and basically they accidentally walk into her thinking she's darkness, which in turn disturbs her, and in turn causes her to zero in on the group. And while Omi plans to use the golden tiger claws to escape, Jack, being Jack, pretty much just grabs the golden tiger claws off Omi and then makes a run for it himself, leaving Chase and the Xiaolin monks to fend off the spiders. And since they realize they can't fight them all at once, they all just bolt. Like, they just run out of Atlantis as fast as they can, as far as they can, and they ultimately manage to make it out, turns out the plan works as Atlantis gets filled to the brim with lava, which of course stops the spiders, but the lava flow is still coming for the group. Thankfully, Omi thought ahead and managed to grab the black beetle, and as such, the group uses it as a flotation device, as they're basically just thrown along on the lava before they get on a hot patch of water that sends them flying right to the surface, and, well, they end up directly in an Old Faithful as they're blasted as they end up coming up in the middle of a group of tourists who all immediately start taking their pictures. As such, yeah, the world is saved. Everything is all good and hunky-dory. The spiders have been stopped. No one has to worry about anything. And so while the Xiaolin monks thank Omi for all that he's done, well, Omi wonders what's going to happen now with Chase, since they were fighting side by side a minute ago. So now how are they going to fight again? Well, Chase tells him that they'll probably find something to fight over, because after all, they may have had a moment of working together, but that's all it was, a moment. And as such, Chase pretty much implies that under no uncertain terms, the next time they see each other, they're not going to be on the same side, as he just kind of jumps away and leaves the group to their devices as they just kind of deal with the group of tourists. In the meantime, with Jack, well, after he tried abandoning the group, he wound up on the outskirts of Atlantis, where he was attacked by a giant, I think, crocodile that was black and had glowing marks on its back. And while it tried to eat Jack, he managed to use the golden tiger claws to escape to the surface and directly into a trash can. So right where he belongs. But either way, as the Xiaolin monks are just waving at all the tourists, Omi laments that he didn't take advantage of the situation he did to learn the knowledge learn how to, stop evil in its tracks, since he made a vow. Though, while the other Xiaolin monks are understanding, since, well, he had to do what he had to do to save the world, Omi does meekly admit that he did at least try and take a peek. As such, the episode ends as everyone goes back to their merry way. We cut back to the Xiaolin temple as we see Raimundo making fun of Dojo for being afraid of the spiders, while Dojo immediately gets terrified himself as Omi used the tongue of Saiping to use a spider to scare him. There you go. But either way, what do I think of this episode? Really good, quite frankly. I get... Hold on one second. Apologies, but... yeah, I really like the episode. I'm a sucker for enemies becoming allies kinds of episodes, where the heroes and villains of a show or franchise see a much bigger threat and realize that if any of them want a chance of surviving, then they need to put their differences aside, if just for a little while, to focus on this big thing. And I think the episode does a good job of it, as the Xiaolin monks have to pretty much do whatever they can and work with Chase Young and, unfortunately, Jack Spicer to try and stop the spiders. And quite frankly, I like the spiders as villains. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of spiders already. I think they're just creepy and weird and gross. So seeing this legion of giant spiders just running around and zeroing in on people, I think it's creepy. And the fact that the spiders are described as just these predators that will eat anything, I think helps set up just how dangerous they are, especially since after they're woken up, the world itself starts shaking and showcasing these things crawling through the interior of the earth, most likely gobbling up whatever they can find. Which I like that. It gives a sense of dread to how everything's going, and likewise, when everyone arrives to grab the Hadoku mouse, you know that time is of the essence, and so you're basically like, you gotta stop these things now, otherwise they're gonna just keep eating. And so likewise, when everybody he gets the Hadoku Mouse, only for it to be lost because Jack just wanted to gloat for a while. It leaves you wondering where things are going to go from there, and seeing the heroes and villains have to try and do whatever they can to find a new solution, which in turn leads to even a greater cooperation as Omi and Chase end up combining the Shingon that they have, in this case the Fountain of Wi and the Eagle Scope, in order to find out how to defeat the spiders, which I like. I do actually think that I do like that. I do think that's really cool. I think that's a good way of being able to bring everyone together. And quite frankly, Omi and Chase are a kick-ass duo. Like, watching this episode, you can see why Chase would like Omi. Yeah, we know that Omi is talented, but seeing him and Omi actually fighting side by side, that's cool. They actually are in perfect sync, and the way Chase talks to Omi, it's clear that he has nothing but respect for him. He tutors him on how they can fight the spiders. He instructs him on the best possible way of fighting back. They know exactly how to work along with each other to beat everyone. What I love too is that when Omi and Chase were fighting the spiders side by side, the moves they were pulling were things that Chase taught Omi, not just the repulse the monkey, but also moves that Chase, I think, taught Omi when they had their Xiaolin showdown a few episodes back, which actually would explain why Chase chose to have it be a mirror match kind of showdown. He was basically trying to teach Omi without anyone realizing he was teaching Omi, which I like. I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, by the end of the episode, I like that they're able to use their combined forces do manage to beat back the spiders. And I do admit, seeing Chase actually working with the Xiaolin monks is honestly really damn cool. Like I said, he's this big bad evildoer, but again, it's like I said, he has class to him. He has his own set of codes and morals and so forth. So to see him actually working alongside the monks, treating them as equals, especially with the greater threat they're all facing, I do actually really like that. And I do like that he's the first one to propose that the good guys and the bad guys have to work together on this. Unfortunately, the one that stands in his way the most in this endeavor is Jack fucking Spicer. Yeah, I'm not gonna mince words. I did not like Jack Spicer in this episode. And I know I've said that before in other episodes, but oh my god, I wanted to throttle this kid in this episode. I understand. Jack Spicer is the bad guy. He basically thinks about himself more than anybody else. And you know what? That's typical for most bad guys. They basically think the world needs to exist for them. But in the case of Jack, he really cannot see the forest through the trees in this episode. He is way more concerned with getting his win than what will happen if the spiders are allowed to roam free. Because as Chase told him, you can't really fight over the world if there is no world to fight over. So it's in all of their best interests to not let these things destroy everything. And yet Jack's response? He doesn't really give a shit. When Chase brings him to his lair saying they need to work together, he's like, oh, whatever. I don't really know why I'm being brought into this. Or when Chase, Jack, and Wuya arrive alongside the Xiaolin monks to get the Hadoku Mouse, when Chase tells them we have to put our differences aside, Jack's the one that says, fuck that, I want the Shengon Wu, which results in everyone wasting time as they have to fight Jack in a Xiaolin showdown just to get the thing. And even when Jack wins the showdown and gets the Hadoku Mouse, he decides to just stand around and gloat. I understand. I've said this before. Jack loves the idea of being a villain more than actually doing the villainous things. He has the end goals in mind. It's just that he's more concerned with putting on the front of being a big bad. But again, world's gonna be destroyed! Use this fucking mouse to undo what you did, Jackie boy! Put the spiders back in their cage! I know, you want to savor the win, and you can savor the win, but you know what would make that win feel even sweeter? If you could lord the fact that you're the one that saved the world! You could tell the Xiaolin monks, it was me! I did it! I fixed everything! You're welcome, and maybe I'll be merciful in the future, as now he has this exceedingly powerful Shengon Wu at his disposal that that could basically allow him to undo any win the Xiaolin monks could get in the future, but because he just needed to bask in the moment for that period of time, it allowed the spiders to come in, disrupt everything, and for nobody to get the Hadoku mouse. So thank you, Jack Spicer. Thank you so much for not being helpful. Literally, the only thing that he contributes in this episode is that it's his drilling device that ultimately ensures a win, as the drilling device is what ultimately opened up a path for the lava to flow into the spider's chamber, and in turn, that's what ultimately won the day and stopped the spiders. Otherwise, Jack is just a hindrance in every form in this episode. And I understand, Jack Spicer is supposed to be self-serving. He's the villain. He's an idiot, and he's supposed to be a doofus. But good Lord, Jack, where's your grander vision? You want to rule the world. Why can't you realize that maybe, just maybe, it's in your best interest to just put your ego aside for a little bit and let this happen? You did it in the beginning of the season when Wuya took over the world. In that instance, he was able to put all that aside so to work alongside the Xiaolin monks. And yeah, he could be annoying, but he at least offered solutions. He at least tried to work alongside the monks and create and try and find ways to take down Wuya. Yeah, he still hit his roadblocks because it's Jack Spicer, but at least he was actually doing something that contributed to the grander plot. He actually was helpful in some regard. And yeah, he didn't tell the group that, oh yeah, my time machine doesn't have a return button, but at the very least, the time machine was still helpful, as it allowed the Xiaolin monks to go and talk to Grandmaster Dashi, well, Omi specifically, and that talk allowed them to get a second puzzle box as they used to trap Wuya. Again, Jack at least, again, Jack may have had his faults the last time that he worked with the good guys, but at least he was being actively helpful. Here, he's a hindrance at every single point. The only hell, it's because of him that these spiders were even released in the first place. And he does nothing to fix it. He does nothing to try and stop it. Even in the end, when they do have a solution, he just leaves everyone to die, which admittedly is a pretty Jack thing to do. But again, it's just like, dude, this is all your fault. At least try to patch it back up. I don't know. It just annoyed me more than ever. Just seeing Jack be this constant hindrance throughout everything. I know Jack's supposed to be an idiot, but why is it that when he's put in a position where he does really need to think about this sort of thing, he just doesn't? Again, I know Jack's more in love with the theatrics of being a villain, so sometimes he can't always see a grander scope beyond what's in front of him. And we've seen that displayed in other episodes. But despite the fact that he is being shown the direct consequences of his actions and is being told this is what will happen because of what you did, Jack still doesn't do anything to help in the grand scheme of things, and I find it annoying. Just God, I don't know. And it's ironic that in the episode where Jack is the least helpful, he's the one where or the least competent, I guess, is the one where he actually wins the showdown in the end. Yeah, it's been a while, but I actually was surprised when I watched this episode and Jack won the showdown. I admit, when I first saw this episode when I was younger, I think I only saw like the second half, so I never saw the Xiaolin showdown for the episode. But watching this now, I was surprised to see Jack win, because when plot summaries for this episode, he said that the Xiaolin showdown was interrupted by the spiders, but no, they finished the showdown just before the spiders showed up, and Jack actually did win in the end. I was honestly shocked, but at the same time, I was actually kind of a little content. Like I said, it's nice to actually see Jack getting some wins every now and then. Look, I know he's the bad guy, but we need to at least somewhat be convincing in him being a threat. Yes, he's the typical Saturday morning villain that gets in the hero's ways, but you need to actually give him some form of presence. And sadly, Season 2 has been making him get less and less of a presence as the series went along, as even greater threats have taken his place. And quite frankly, the fact that Jack even got a win at all, I think, was surprising. And you know what? Yeah, he's the bad guy, but good on him. Too bad the rest of the episode has him at his worst. I don't know. I'm getting way out. I think I've been ranting. I think I've ranted long enough. Point is, Jack was not written at his worst in this episode. Not very competent. Not very good. Not very good as a character. Just annoying. Just annoying. So there you go. So yeah, there was the big fault in the episode for me. Otherwise, though, the rest of the episode, I think, is able to at least cover for Jack. Yeah, his constant presence in the episode does annoy me, but I think the big factor that keeps the episode cool for me is the grander scope with the spiders and how it forces the heroes and the villains to work alongside each other. The spiders, again, I think can work as creepy villains, as again, because they're not aligned with the good guys or the bad guys, everyone's a target for them. We're even before the spiders get free, even before the spiders manage to get to the surface, you get a feel for how dangerous they are because of the constant earthquakes they're causing. And likewise, again, being told that that if they're allowed to, and likewise, their large numbers do make it convincing that these things could be a viable threat if they were allowed to get to the surface, especially if we're told that they will eat anything and everything. And so, and likewise, again, it's nice. And again, when we actually see the Xiaolin monks, or Omi in this case, working alongside Chase Young, I think it really works. And you can see more of how Chase Young operates as a warrior when he's not on the opposite side. I like how methodic, again, the same method, the same planning that he puts into fighting the Xiaolin monks, he puts forth here. He's methodical, he's meticulous, he's smart, he's focused, and likewise he's the one that and likewise when push comes to shove, he's a very valiant warrior. And I like that even in the end, when Jack Spicer, when technically speaking the good guys got a solution to beat the bad guys, he could have betrayed the monks. Well, he still showed his honorable side by waiting until they were out of harm's way, then ditching them. I liked that. I genuinely did like that. And let's again shows he's kind of got more class than Jack Spicer, who just grabbed the golden tiger claws first chance he got and ran the hell away. So again, liked that. I liked that, and again, I liked and like I said, good chemistry, good action. Again, I love the fight scene with where Chase and Omi fought the spiders together. Really cool. Helps show their coordination, and likewise does kind of further showcase why Chase would want Omi on his side. And even by the end, when the spiders are beaten and the Xiaolin monks are victorious, I think it is a well-earned victory. So again, I do like that. I enjoy it, and I do like that. And that little talk and that little thing that Omi mentioned about how he saw how to eradicate evil just by taking a quick peek. I do like that. And what I do, and the thing is, kind of minor spoiler here, but Chase knew that Omi took a peek, and I'll explain why when I get to a later episode. But otherwise, it's a really enjoyable episode. Great tension, great villains, a great setup by bringing the heroes and villains together. Great timing, great odds, just some nice pacing, good odds, good show. Honestly, pretty creative showdown. But I think I think the biggest fault in the episode was just Jack Spicer. He was written at his worst in this episode, and I did not enjoy, and quite frankly, I just wanted him out by the end. So, yeah. But overall, really good episode. Still has its faults, but I think the positives more than make up for the negatives. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week as we reach the beginning of the end of Season 2, and we see Chase finally put his grand plan into motion to finally get Omi on his side proper. So till then, I hope you have a good Friday, and take care.